You should be grateful he puts up with you, Shelby, my mother-in-law said sharply, her tone full of disdain. I froze, shocked by her words. Robert, my husband didn't stand up for me instead. He just grinned, almost as if he agreed with her. Enough is enough, I yelled at my heart racing. Little did I know that moment was only the start of the nightmare that Robert and his mother had planned for me. My name is Deborah, and I'm 32 years old. I was once married to Robert, who's years younger than me. That age difference had become an issue only recently. I first met Robert at a party hosted by my friend, Michaela, and Robert were workout buddies. Robert, a handsome young man with a chiseled jawline and a muscular build, had a charismatic and playful personality. I was single at the time, and Michaela, eager to set me up, introduced me to him. Hey, Robert. Meet my geeky millionaire friend, Deborah, Michaela said with a teasing smile. Michaela, stop embarrassing me, I said, my cheeks flushing in embarrassment. Don't be embarrassed, it's a compliment, Michaela said, laughing. I blushed and thanked Michaela, who added that she could have also called me beauty with brains. Well, you're right. She definitely is a beauty with brains, Robert said, flashing a smile at me. Ow, you two have fun while I mingle, Michaela said, walking off to chat with the other guests. Once she left, Robert turned to me. Why did she call you geeky? He asked, genuinely curious. I smiled and explained. I'm an engineer at a software company, so I'm always busy with work. That's how I earned the nickname Geeky. That's awesome, Robert said, clearly impressed. You must be making a great salary, which makes you a millionaire, Geeky. I laughed. Yeah, you could say that. We spent the rest of the evening talking, and I found Robert to be charming and sweet. We began meeting up for coffee and dinner regularly. Robert even started picking me up from work so we could spend more time together. He worked as an assistant at a small company after a few months of dating. Robert proposed I loved him, but I felt it was too soon to make such a big commitment, especially since Robert was 5 years younger than me. I voiced my concerns. Are you sure about this, Robert? I mean, it's a huge step, and you're younger than me, I said, unsure. Robert smiled gently and reassured me. We've been together long enough, Deborah, age doesn't matter. Loved as he dismissed the idea that the husband should be older than the wife. That's an old-fashioned belief, he said confidently. Despite his reassurances, I still felt conflicted about the societal expectations surrounding age differences. But Robert convinced me that our love would lead to a happy marriage. We introduced each other to our families, while my father, Tiago, stayed silent. My mother privately expressed her concerns about our financial compatibility. Deborah, are you sure about this? My mother asked one evening. You know, men can sometimes struggle with the financial imbalance. I reassured her we've talked about finances. Mum, Robert isn't bothered by me earning more than him. But she frowned. Just be careful. Money can cause problems in ways you might not expect. Her words made me realize I hadn't discussed Robert's finances in detail. Though I was financially independent, I remembered Robert had asked about my salary before proposing, but I brushed it off, excited about starting our married life. Our honeymoon in Hawaii, courtesy of my company, was wonderful. We relished being together. However, after a month of marital bliss, Robert sat me down one evening. Deborah, I need to ask you for a favour, he said, his tone serious. What's wrong? Robert is everything. Okay, I asked, feeling uneasy. Not exactly. My parents are struggling. They live in a second-floor apartment with no elevator and they're getting older. The stairs are becoming too much for them, he explained. I sympathised. Have you considered moving them to a ground-floor apartment or somewhere with an elevator? I suggested I have. But they want something more permanent, Robert replied. I was thinking of building them a house. I was surprised. Building a house, that's a big expense, Robert. Are you financially prepared for that, or do you plan to take out a loan? Robert hesitated. Actually, I was hoping you could lend me the money to do it. I was taken aback, Robert. That's a large amount out. I'm not sure I can just lend you that much, I said, trying to stay calm. It shouldn't be an issue for you, Deborah. You have a stable income. Robert insisted, sounding frustrated. I was torn. I didn't want to refuse outright, so I suggested, let me think it over. Okay, this is a big decision. Robert reluctantly agreed. Okay, but I hope you'll say yes. That night, I lay awake weighing his request. Lending my savings for his parents' house felt like a huge risk. I had worked hard to save for my own future. Could I really hand that over the next morning as I was heading to work? Robert hugged me and reminded me he was waiting for my decision. Proposing we discuss it over the weekend since he was running late, I found myself in a tough spot and wasn't sure what to do, seeking advice. I spoke to a colleague who suggested I formalise the arrangement by creating a contract and having Robert sign it to ensure he would repay me. That seemed like a smart move to avoid any issues in the future. When I got home, I told Robert the first could lend him the money, but he would need to repay me within 2 years. Surprisingly, Robert agreed to the terms. I insisted he sign official documents, making it clear that I would take legal action if he failed to repay me. Robert burst out laughing. You're serious? He asked, astonished. Yes, I'm very serious, I replied firmly. I presented the papers to Robert after giving me a sceptical glance. He reluctantly signed the documents, despite finalising the deal. I couldn't shake my doubts, especially considering Robert's modest income. Things took a strange turn afterward. Robert began coming home late and neglecting household chores. When I confronted him, he brushed off my concerns with a vague excuse of being busy with work over time. I noticed my feelings for him, fading on weekends. He was often nowhere to be found, supposedly overseeing the construction of his new house, or caring for his parents, suspicious and frustrated. I finally decided to confront him directly. Robert, you've been acting strangely and seem to be living off me. What's going on? I asked clearly. Upset, he defensively responded, living off you, that's a bit harsh. You've been relying on my income since we married, and you haven't contributed a thing to the household. I pointed out since, when have you ever earned enough to support us both? Your salary barely covers your expenses, I countered, surprised by his response. You knew what I earned when we got married, he replied, lied casually. Then why did you marry me? I asked completely, taken aback. I'm not in the mood for an argument, Robert said, brushing me off. I'm looking forward to the housewarming tomorrow. That house was built with my money, and you didn't even tell me about the party. I shouted, oops, I must have forgotten. He replied nonchalantly. Feel free to come by if you want, he added, walking away as if nothing happened. Anger surged through me, but I forced myself to calm down a few hours later. My mother-in-law called about the party. So are you coming? She asked coldly. I knew Robert must have pressured her to invite me, given her previous indifference toward me. I didn't want to go, but I feared they'd gossip about me being jealous if I didn't show up, so I reluctantly agreed to attend, but only for a short time. When I arrived, the entrance was decorated with flowers, and Robert and his mother were greeting guests. She looked surprised to see me. I didn't think you'd come, she said, her voice ding with hostility. Robert, noticing the tension, quickly ushered me inside. Once I saw my father-in-law sitting alone. He greeted me warmly and expressed genuine gratitude. We really appreciate your help with the house, Deborah, he said, holding my hand. It was a rare moment of sincerity, and I felt a brief sense of pride. At least my efforts had been acknowledged by him. Even if Robert and his mother never bothered to thank me during the party, Robert and his mother barely spoke to me, and I spent the evening engaging in shallow conversations with distant relatives, counting the minutes, until I could leave, as the guests started leaving. I walked over to my father-in-law to say goodbye before I could leave. My mother-in-law cut me off. You shouldn't pretend to care about my husband when you can't even manage your own marriage, she snapped, neglecting duties. What are you talking about? I asked, stunned. I've been trying to keep things together, and Robert hasn't been helping at all. You should be grateful he puts up with you, she hissed. He's had to tolerate you. And now you want him to repay money you supposedly lent him That's cruel. Deborah, that's absurd. I never tortured anyone. I shot back, seething with resentment. Her insults escalated. Just look at you. You should count yourself lucky. Anyone even married you. I lost control. How dare you talk to me like that? I shouted, my anger boiling over. Suddenly Robert intervened. Don't you dare raise your voice at my mother, he scolded conveniently, ignoring the abuse she had just thrown my way. I'm done, I said, voice firm. I'm not staying here and putting up with this any longer. I'm leaving, Robert scoffed. Leaving? Where will you go? You're not going anywhere, excuse me. What did you just say? I asked in disbelief. Robert glared at me. I refuse to live with someone like you. You've been depending on my income all this time, and now you're calling me trash. You're pathetic, Deborah. You knew you could never get a man like me, not with your age and looks. That's why you married me. Even though I don't earn much, so don't complain about money. Now, he concluded, my face flushed with rage. I had been utterly deceived. I can't stand living with someone so shallow. I want a divorce, I declared. And I want my money back, Robert laughed pre-divorce. You think you can just walk away if you want out. You're going to have to pay me. Oh, and, by the way, he added with a malicious grin, I've already taken all the important documents from our joint bank, locker. I stood there stunned and betrayed. How had I let this happen? I left the house numb with disbelief and went straight to the bank. There, I discovered the missing documents. The bank log revealed that Robert had accessed our joint account, which I had contributed to exclusively checking my wardrobe. I realized even the copy of the agreement I had kept there was gone. It became clear to me how Robert had meticulously orchestrated this marriage. He had shown interest in me only because of my salary living off my earnings, and manipulating me to lending him money for his new house. Now he was casting me out, and had even stolen the signed agreement. Despite everything, I was relieved that I had kept the original documents safe at my parents' house, and I had copies in my bank and wardrobe. I had trusted my instincts, and it had paid off. I called my mum and recounted everything. Enraged, she said we should sue Robert and his mother for what they've done to you. I never trusted him. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Shocked, she sighed. It wasn't my place, but I always had my doubts. I should have spoken up sooner. I reflected on this. I lied when I said I talked to him about finances. I never asked about his salary. It just didn't seem important. Mum gave me a valuable piece of advice. Don't trust people so quickly. Be careful next time. Empowered by her support, I hired a lawyer and sent Robert the divorce papers along with a demand for repayment. Within 2 years, failure to comply would result in the court selling his property to recover the debt. Robert Rob Burr and his mother were blindsided when they received the papers. Desperate calls followed, but I ignored them and blocked their numbers. Even Robert's attempts to reach my parents went unanswered in a last ditch. Effort, Robert left a voicemail. I'm so sorry, his voice trembled. I love you, please forgive me. It was all my mother's idea. She made me do it. I know I made mistakes, but can't we work things out? I deleted the voicemail and blocked his number, despite his lawyer attempts to reduce the owe amount.
By 60% cent, I remained resolute and ignored his requests. After everything he had done, I wasn't going to forgive him or let him off the hook. Over the next 2 years, Robert struggled to pay off the debt. He had to sell the house he had built with my money and even moved back in with his parents. Michaela, a friend from work, told me that Robert was being criticised at his job and had quit. He moved to a different city, leaving his mother behind to live with his brother in the countryside. You won't believe it, but the whole neighbourhood is talking Robert and his mum are struggling, and now Shelby's working as a nanny. Michaela added, I felt no sympathy for Robert or his mother. They had brought this on themselves. As for me, I was finally free and looking forward to a peaceful life ahead. Now I'm in a new relationship with Arlo, a 38-year-old colleague. We've known each other for years, and our connection turned romantic. After my divorce, I'm taking things slow this time, carefully evaluating our relationship, before making any big decisions. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Stay strong.